I found some information, Falcons fans, that I believe you will love. This sort of information proves to me that the Kevin Stefanski-led offense is going to be much more efficient than the Zach Robinson offense. And it also is further proof that Ian Cunningham is making brilliant decisions when it comes to player personnel. Welcome into Falcons Today, presented by Prize Picks. Hanging out with your guy Moose. Thanks for joining me today. All of this, by the way, stems from one player, and it's Bijan. Stefanski will make Atlanta less Bijan reliant. Now, when I say less Bijan reliant, I don't mean they're going to take the ball out of his hands. They're just going to use him way more efficiently than they did last year, and I can prove it. But before I get into that, I do have to remind you guys that we are at the very end of June. There is literally nothing going on right now, so anytime that I can get information like this, I think it's worthy of a thumbs up button. So if you could do me a huge favor, tap that thumbs up icon. Let's get 600 likes on today's video. That would go a long way into showing you support the channel. So what is this statistic? What is this news that I have kind of stumbled upon? So if we go back to the 2025 season, Warren Sharp, one of my favorite NFL analysts, brought out what he calls the opening script usage in 2025, which is targets and rushing attempts combined. Now, obviously, if you're a very dynamic running back, you're going to be way higher on this list than a normal running back or even a wide receiver. So it has nothing to do with the fact that Bijan leads this category. We expected that. It has everything to do with how much he leads by. So Bijan had 121 plays on the Falcons' opening script usage in 2025. The next highest on the Falcons was Drake London at 34. Now, for those of you wondering, what does that mean in the context of the NFL? Well, Warren Sharp has an answer for that too. Where did Bijan's 121 rushes plus targets in the Falcons' opening scripts rank in 2025? The highest since 2011. And the last running back to accomplish this was Maurice Jones-Drew for the Jacksonville Jaguars. In fact, if you look at the remainder of the opening script plays throughout the 2025 season, Bijan is significantly higher than even Christian McCaffrey. 12 more plays on an opening drive script throughout the year. I mean, look at Jahmyr Gibbs, who we compare Bijan to as in the closest style of player, right? I think Jahmyr and Bijan Robinson are probably number 1 and 2 in the NFL. Bijan's number 1, and I would probably put Jahmyr Gibbs at number 2 or somewhere around there. Jahmyr's at 99 because the Lions have weapons that they can utilize and not have to be so Jahmyr Gibbs reliant. And look, I'm not denying that the Atlanta Falcons have... let me start over one more time. And look, I'm not denying that we shouldn't be using Bijan, right? Like, he's your best player. Put the ball in the hands of your best player. He is clearly the best player on the Falcons. But the overuse of him leads to less creative opening drives. So having reliable weapons to put the ball in the hands of, rather than just saying, well, we're going to give it to Bijan and it'll probably work out, is just more indications that Ian Cunningham and Kevin Stefanski have an opportunity to really right the wrongs that Zach Robinson put into practice in the 2025 season. I'll keep expanding on this. I've got way more coming up here in a little bit. Do not worry about that. Before I get to that, though, I do have to remind you guys, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. I didn't play over the weekend, mostly because I was moving all my new stuff into my new place, and I wish I would have, because there were some really crisp lineups that I could have gone with. Now, I do know that JD played. He didn't tell me if he won or lost this weekend, but I do know that he cooked up a lineup for you guys, which you can copy, by the way, in the brand new social feeds feature. Just find his username and boom, you got it. So if you want to download the Prize Picks app and win real money while watching sports, I highly recommend you do so, because one of their new features is their team picks, meaning if you don't know that much about the World Cup, right, you don't know about the players individually, you can just take a team straight up to win or to lose. And it is that easy. Like, look at this. I'm taking Brazil over Japan. right? I'm taking Germany over Paraguay, and I'm taking the Netherlands over Morocco. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code HMA to get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. So let's just talk about some of the reasons why Atlanta was not able to have the depth, to not just have Bijan with the ball in his hands. Let's take a very standard bubble screen. The Falcons didn't have a reliable slot wide receiver last year, meaning they could not do play concepts like this, which is very simply put, a slot wide receiver goes right into that little screen route, right? And then the quarterback, Tua or Penix, delivers the ball in the flat. They rely on their blockers, and then they take up the sidelines or cut back towards the center of the field. The Falcons couldn't do that last year at all. Bijan sometimes, but they did not have a reliable slot wide receiver. Now, with the additions of Olamide Zaccheaus, Zachariah Branch, Jahan Dotson, we can do more things and creative route concepts like an RPO read bubble instead of just your very stereotypical wide receiver screen. This allows the quarterback to essentially pull that ball right at the last second and throw into the flat on a screen route or a hitch route on the opposite side on your Z wide receiver, or just give it to Bijan up the middle. There's 3 different route concepts that bleed from one play simply because you now have the personnel to run it. Does that make sense? And of course, we know how electric Zachariah Branch has been since he's stepped foot on a Falcons field. Granted, in shorts and t-shirts, we have to wait to see what the pads look like. But this is one of the major keys as to why this offense is going to work. So the ultimate translation here is, of course, we want to go to Bijan. Of course, we will go to Bijan. But we don't have to rely on Bijan. We don't have to make him feel like he has to be Superman every single year, because at some point, the usage rate is going to be too much. It happens to every player. I know Bijan's special. He cannot defy physics, right? You can't. The more touches that you get, the more contact that you take, the more your body wears down. So let's take a look at Bijan's advanced analytics last year. His success percentage at 41.1%. His explosive run percentage at 8.3%, or 8.36%. And his first down percentage at 21.9%, so round up to 22%. Now, you might look at those numbers and say, all of those sound great, Moose. What's the problem? All 3 of those numbers were the worst percentage that he's had in the last 3 seasons, and yet it was still statistically the best year of his career. Why? Well, because Bijan's fucking amazing. Pardon my French. Bijan faced an average box defender of 7.11 per time that he was on the field. So the amount of times that Bijan took a handoff, he was facing an average of 7.11 defenders inside the box. That was the highest career rate of his entire career. And I can prove it to you. I went back and found out 2024's box defender rate. 6.85 defenders inside the box in 2024. Look at how much more they respect Bijan in 2025. Or how much they disrespect Zach Robinson because they know it's going to be a run to Bijan. So they're stacking the box a little bit more. And yet still we were able to get 1,400 rushing yards, 820 receiving yards, and 11 total touchdowns. It was an amazing year. I'm not denying that. It really was. But the reason he was so great was not because the scheme fit Bijan. It's because Bijan was so amazing. He was number 1 last year in the entire NFL in yards after contact. Over 1,000 rushing yards after contact. He only had 429. Meaning, when Bijan has the ball in his hands, you can't stop him. So that's a testament to Bijan, not necessarily to Zach Robinson. So where does Kevin Stefanski come into all of this? He can alleviate the burden of feeling that we are Bijan reliant, right? Using your scheme, using your offensive weaponry to create opportunities for other players, which I'll get to here in just a moment. Before I get to that, though, my question to you is this. Did the Falcons add enough help during the 2026 offseason? Yes or no? I think they did. Is it a finished product? Of course not. We're far from it. But we definitely helped. So let me know in the comment section down below. The reason that I bring up the alleviating of the Bijan burden is this. Kevin Stefanski, right, loves to use the tight end. At his introductory press conference, he came out and he said, I love the tight end position more than any other position on the offense. And it proves in his style of play calling, and it also proves in his style of offensive scheme. Take a look. Since 2020 through 2025, Kevin Stefanski, his worst tight end usage percentage, tight end share percentage, is 9th in the NFL. It's been top 10 every single season, and there's no reason that it shouldn't be top 10 once again. Fun fact, our guy Rise Up Drake, who changes his name every single time, I love it, says that since 2020, when Tua was drafted and Kevin Stefanski became the Browns head coach, so in the last 5 NFL seasons, actually 6, one of them has supported a top 10 fantasy tight end every single year, and I have the numbers to back it up. It's either been Harold Fannin last year, which was number 6, Jonnu Smith, which was 4th, David Njoku, 6th, Njoku, 10th, Mike Gesicki, 9th, and then Mike Gesicki again, 7th. Tell me something right off the bat here. Are any one of those players as talented right now as Kyle Pitts? Right this moment. Njoku at one point might have, but he's not now. And Harold Fannin might be the closest argument, but he's only had 1 year. He was a rookie last season. So the answer to me is no. And all of that, by the way, was with mediocre or less than mediocre quarterback play. Tua's never been elite. He's been, at times, very good. He's never been elite. Flacco's never been elite. Baker Mayfield, when he was with Cleveland, was never elite. We have a variety of quarterback play seasons and kind of data to go off of here, and none of it has been good or elite. And yet he was still able to get high usage out of the tight end position. In fact, CBS Sports believes that the only thing hindering the Atlanta Falcons this year is not the scheme, it's not Bijan, it's not the depth, it's the quarterback. So here's what they had to say. Get enough out of the quarterbacks to compete for a division title. Give Kevin Stefanski a decent quarterback, and his offense is going to click, and it does. Just look at the time he spent with Minnesota. 2019 with Kirk Cousins was easily the best year of his career, right? And he's won 2 head coaching of the year awards with Cleveland. Does he have the kind of pieces in his first Atlanta Falcons season to compete? And the answer to me is yes. To compete for the division, certainly. I want to go back and talk to you guys very quickly about the most important graph I've ever seen on Kevin Stefanski. Play caller, historical pass rate over expectation. Meaning what? How often over expectations do you throw the football? And if you are a very balanced coach, your line is going to be dead across the center. There's not going to be dips and dives and everything. Look at Kevin Stefanski down at the bottom right next to Zach Robinson. Zach Robinson falls off a cliff, meaning he takes the ball out of the quarterback's hands. Kevin Stefanski is a lot more centered in his quarterback performance play. And that's with mediocre quarterbacks. So the difference is that Zach Robinson naturally wanted to take the ball out of the quarterback's hands and put it in the hands of his running backs. And even more so with Penix, because Penix, he believed, could not play under center. So you had a offensive coordinator that was telegraphing, we're taking the ball out of the quarterback's hands, we're going to put it in the hands of our running backs in the most running back predictable offense in the league with the pistol. Does it sound like a recipe for success? That is what led Zach Robinson to being labeled as the second worst offensive coordinator, the second worst play caller through the first 11 weeks of the NFL season. I found the data. Now, obviously, as the season went along, right, and Kirk stepped in and played better than Penix did, this number went up. In fact, I believe the Falcons finished at 24th overall in play calling tendencies and play calling rankings. But at one point, they were 31st. Oh, and by the way, after week 11, it was pretty much that the Falcons were out of the playoffs. So none of the season mattered. None of the season mattered. So the plan now for Kevin Stefanski, this offense, is this, according to Moose. If you were going to take out anything from this episode, this is what you need to carve out. Space out Bijan's usage rate. You don't need to rely on Bijan 8 times in the opening drive. 3, maybe 4, depending on how long the drive is, right? Utilize Kyle Pitts and Drake London earlier. And then you balance your play calling out because of that. You're not running the ball nearly as much because you're taking the ball out of Bijan's hands. But really what you're doing is trusting your other playmakers. And then, of course, because of this, you can use more under-center techniques. You don't have to sit in the pistol or in the gun nearly as frequently. Does that make sense? There was a lot of information there. But I believe that we are in a good spot heading into this season. So if you agree with me, hit that thumbs up icon. One last push throughout the month of June. My name is Moose. Until next time, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.